Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Isabelle Amigues, your host for Unabridged MD podcast and rheumatologist. And today I continue on a path of understanding the healing process. Angelic Ingram is a holistic health practitioner. And if you have not heard of what this is, I haven't either. I've got some ideas, but I think most importantly, it is about the practitioner and learning about them. And so that is what we are going to learn. And the idea of this podcast is to bring to you different modalities so that you can choose and pick which one are right for you, because there is not one that works for everyone, but really it is about finding what is tailored for you. Okay. So Angelic Ingram, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for, we have a new setup at Unabridged MD. So it's always very new. So thank you for being here. Can you tell us what you do and how you got into this field?
Thank you, Dr. Amigues, for having me. And yes, I became a holistic health practitioner in 2005, shortly after I got sick with my first bout of dermatomyositis. I have dermatomyositis. I also have rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's syndrome and ulcerative colitis. So I have an overlap of many chronic conditions. But yeah, after going through my myositis and in and out of hospitals with treatments and such, I was really drawn towards the holistic approach of medicine, going through, everything that I had gone through. I just felt more of a draw to alternative care, and I wanted to really just help myself. Really, it was a personal journey of being more organic and, checking in with my body and creating a better lifestyle through nutrition and movement and all these things. And I started taking courses for myself to just live a better lifestyle and moving through my journey with myositis. And I decided to go ahead and get a license and help others in the community through modalities such as nutrition, herbs, massage work. I did a lot of craniosacral therapy, a lot of, different body work modalities, and I absolutely loved it. I had a small practice in San Diego, California, where I lived for about 23 years before relocating to Portugal. And yes, and that's really
Did you
what
say
brought me.
Portugal?
I'm in Lisbon right now. Yes.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. Nice.
Yes, I
Yeah, that's wonderful.
relocated last year with my husband. We decided to sell the house in San Diego, and now we're living life in Lisbon. We're absolutely loving it out here. And yeah, so it's a new journey. It's, there's so many things, of course, relocation with chronic illness. There's so many, avenues that we can go and talk about. But today I really wanted to focus more on my journey with my chronic illness and the stem cell treatment that I got this more recently that has helped me in my journey.
Got it. And so there's a lot of modalities that you have talked about, and I think that that's what's really fascinating to me. For those of you who do not know, I had to myself go through this journey of health, of regaining health back. And I really think that health is being in balance. I think that that's what it is. It's not a fight, and it's not giving up, and it's not giving yourself to the science and hope for the better. I think it's a really active process. And in that active process, when I was dealing myself with cancer, but it can be any sort of different condition, that's not the problem. So when we deal with this, we have several options that come to us. We can kind of go into this mode of I don't want to think about it. I don't even want to look at it. I kind of don't want to go to the doctor. I'm out. There's this second option, which is, I'm only going to do what the doctor is saying, and that's it. And then there's another option, which is, I'm not going to see the doctor at all. And I'm just going to go anything, an alternative, which honestly, as a physician, I find a little sad, because I think that the medicine in 2025 is extremely powerful and very targeted. So there's less side effect. And then there is this final approach, which sounds that that's what you did, Angelique, is this, and that's what I did, which is, yes, I'm taking the Western medicine, no problem, because they are very powerful and they work really well. And I'm also looking at what other modalities are available. So you mentioned stem cell, you mentioned craniosacral therapy. I have myself been the recipient of craniosacral therapy, and I have to say I cannot really explain what it is. So I don't know, maybe you can explain it a little bit better. I can tell how I feel after, which is I feel a bliss. I feel blessed, as if I had done meditation for several hours, except that it was just, 40 minutes or 20 or 30 minutes. How would you explain what craniosacral therapy is?
Yeah, I would say it's a very subtle, very slow process that takes a long time, that can take a long time for a client to feel its benefits. And it's really the subtle hold of a certain part of the body, and it's usually down the spine, starting from the sacrum, and it goes all the way up to the spine, to the cranium, and it's a very subtle hold that can help create a very slight adjustment to that bone and helping those nerves, helping the blood flow through the body more easily, moving maybe lymph as well. And it's very subtle, and you wouldn't think anything of it, but like you say, in your experience and in my own experience, it's amazing. And you can
Yeah.
really, it just really transforms. It's like, wow. Like you say,
Yeah.
it's like a meditative state, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a very cool way of getting into like we have the adrenergic system and we have the parasympathetic system. The adrenergic system is this flight or flight and like stress. And the truth is that if you're listening to news, which I have decided to not listen to your news personally, because I feel like any news will come to me, whether I want it or not. So basically this like cycle of news, that is exactly what they bank on. It's, the title that are really like bing, bang, something bad, something, it's usually something bad, honestly. Like if we look at the news, it's always something bad. And so it's like, that's the adrenergic system. And then we have the parasympathetic system, which is more the system that's going to help us heal. And that's the one that's activated when we meditate. That's the one that's activated when we sleep. When we sing, I love that. Like the fact that if we sing, it vibrates our vocal cord, and by vibrating that, it stimulates the vagal nerve, and so that can also stimulate this. And so, to me, the craniosacral therapy has been the hack into the parasympathetic system. I don't know that it helps everyone, but for me, it's been really incredible. Actually, every time I've done it, and so, Angelique, what do you like? So you have gone through a lot. You have you mentioned at least 3 rheumatologic disorders, and that is definitely something we see. I have a lot of patients who have overlap syndrome, like you mentioned. So rheumatoid arthritis, dermatomyositis. In your case, I think you said that you also had Crohn's, if I'm not mistaken.
Ulcerative colitis and
Ulcerative colitis, which is the other
Sjogren's.
kind of
Mhm.
inflammatory bowel disease, and Sjogren, and they all can live together. And we have treatments that actually work for all. So that's the good news.
Yes.
And there is one. There's a couple of treatments that actually help dermatomyositis, RA, and ulcerative colitis. So that's like the cool thing for me as a rheumatologist. I find it very interesting when you can, you know, with one signal that you stop, actually act on all of this. So it's always exciting to have the least amount of medication. But so I'm just thinking, so through your journey, you have learned things, right? And you've become what we call patient advocate, and you've become in France. We had a course, first year of medicine, to learn about this, because there is a before and then after the HIV crisis. The before, patients were supposed to just listen to doctors. That's it. And the after, with association like ACT UP and so on, it's fascinating, by the way. Basically, patients were like, hey, no, this is too slow. You guys are letting us die. This is too slow. We need patients in studies. We need patients in guidelines. And it was a little violent at first, I think, like at least the physicians were feeling pushed. But every single physician will tell you that that actually ended up being something wonderful. It's because the patients became professional patients. That's how we called it in France. I don't know if we can call it here like this, but I love it because it's really this idea of, look, no one knows better than me how I feel and what it feels like to go through this process. And so that's exactly what you've done. And you came out of this with an offering that's even bigger.
Yes. Yes. And I'm so passionate about it too, because it was a hard and dark journey in the beginning for me and for many of us when we first started dealing with the chronic illness. For me, it happened shortly after a traumatic event that happened in my life, right about a year after I got married to my first husband. And it was very scary, what myositis is, it is like. But for those who don't know, it's an anti-inflammatory rare disease that affects the muscles, and in my case, the skin as well. And so when I started getting my symptoms, it was just shortness of breath, and then eventually it was the weakness of my muscles. The pain set in not long after that. And so I wasn't able to lift my arms. I wasn't able to really walk. I ended up in a wheelchair for a couple of years. I had dysphagia. I couldn't swallow any food. And so I had to drink protein shakes for my meals. I mean, it was a dark hole that took me down really quick, and emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the whole bit. And I know what that's like. I know letting go of the hope. I know that it can be very isolating. And if we don't hold on to that hope, and if we don't find the right resources to help uplift us and help empower us to keep going, we can stay in the dark place for a very long time. And so once I hit quote unquote remission, or I would like to say disease stability, for over 20 plus years until recently, I made it my mission to help other people and speak about my illness and help others. And because I think our stories, they matter, and we really need to share our experiences and learn from each other. And, one thing might not work for everybody. Of course, everyone is different, but if we can just share those things that help us, and help create the dialogue between us and our doctors and our teams that that care for us, it really makes a difference. It really makes a difference. And that's what I love to do. And I love to speak up about all chronic illness and support those communities.
I love this. And it really reminds me, I had a wonderful, so again, I had to deal with cancer, and I had a cancer coach. And I have to say, it was a really interesting journey for me, because I realized that I needed, it's probably one of the person who helped me the most through this journey. And the funny part is that we never talked about the cancer. It was really funny. We
Really?
talked about my relationships with my kids, with my,
But
my
sometimes you
partner.
just don't have to speak about it, right? It's just
Exactly. I think it
connection.
was, talking about fear. Definitely, I talked about fear. We talked a lot about fear. And I just felt like someone was in my corner that was not my family. So the outcome wasn't, I have to say, I think it really relieved me from being showing a certain way of how, right, like my mom, I felt, was judging. I don't know if she was judging for real, but I felt it,
Yeah.
that she was judging that I wasn't speaking to enough about cancer.
Yeah.
She couldn't understand why I was still living my life. And I was like, well, I'm
Right.
here, so I'm living my life. But it was interesting because I feel like the coach, and it sounds like that's what you offer, was really something that really helped me, really helped my journey. And so I could see how, as a physician in this practice of direct care rheumatology, that's what I try to be. I try to be the physician and the coach, because I do think that there is this association of both word of, look, you need someone on your side. And if there is something you don't want to do, I want to coach you through it because maybe we don't have to go through this. And yeah, so yeah, I really like it. Um,
Yeah,
Angelique,
and
how do,
I have
yeah,
to
go ahead.
say, Dr. Amig, I have to say that that's what I love about you. I've been following you for just even for the short time that I have been. I've listened to a few of your podcast episodes, and I wish we had more doctors like you. You know, we need more of you because I hear your passion and you're opening the space for not just other professionals, but for us, the patients as well. And, you know, I really appreciate that and what you do. So I just
Oh,
wanted to,
thank you.
yeah.
If it works out, I've asked the universe for more because
Me
I
too.
do want to I don't know if it's because, and it's interesting that you're in Portugal, but I will say the way I've practiced medicine in France is very different than here. I mean, I practice similarly, but what I have seen in France, we are not, or at least when I was there, we were not afraid of being sued. You're not afraid. So you're offering you, and you always feel like you have, like that the patients are also knowing that you're in their corner. And so again, I don't know if it's a difference, and it may have changed. It's been a very long time I hear now. But I would say that the one thing that I realize is so important, and that's the tagline of the podcast and the practice is hope driven by science. Because if you have hope as a patient, you can achieve anything. And you just like it's a matter of not giving up and trying until you reach remission, right? Like, and try the different things. And so thank you for sharing your thoughts on this. And I have to say, like, I'm hoping to bring more physicians and maybe advanced practitioners into the practice so that it's not just me, and maybe, there is more hope in the world of medicine. So thank you for sharing that. So yeah, I wanted to ask you, how does it look to work with you? And where can we find you?
Well, you can find me all over social media. I'm basically on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Facebook. But I'm mostly really spending most of my time advocating for myositis. And I'm a volunteer and the marketing manager for MSU, Myositis Support and Understanding. And I've been with them for 4 years now, right about the time I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And so, yes, I'm with that community and really just helping to have the community just find that hope, just like you say, and continue to keep going, to always practice movement, because that is such a big part of our lives with chronic illness, no matter what it is. We have to keep moving. And so, yeah, people can connect with me. I'm always happy to connect with them. And I haven't done a lot of coaching recently because of my relocation. Things have kind of been on the back burner. We're trying to settle here in Lisbon, but I'm always happy to open up that space for anybody who would need it. And so, yes.
And so what's the name of, so for those who are listening, because, we will put all of this in the show notes, but for those of us who are listening, what is the name of Instagram and social media? How do we find you at Angelic Ingram? How do we find you?
Yes, I'm Angelic Ingram on LinkedIn. Instagram, I'm at Mindful Journeys, plural. And yeah, my website is angelicingram.com. And I'm always, again, happy to connect with anyone.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Angelique, thank you so much for being here. And everyone, go and follow Angelique on Instagram and all of the social media platform. We need more Angelique in our words, and we need to make sure that we are supporting you. Enjoy Lisbon. It's one of my favorite cities, and I'm sure, yeah, the music, the food, the
Oh,
weather, the
yeah.
people. So many good things.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure our path will cross again. So thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Amig, for having me.
Of course. Bye, everyone. See you next week, everyone. Bye bye. And don't hesitate to share this with someone that you think will enjoy it.